o'clock or a little after 3 o'clock, so we're going to get our meeting started. It is Wednesday, September 30th, 2020. It's at 3 o'clock. And this is the monthly meeting of the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District Board. At this time, I'm going to read a short statement. In accordance with Governor Pritzker's Executive Order 2020-7, the COVID-19 Executive Order number 5, which temporarily suspends the requirement for the Open Meetings Act requiring in-person distance. How about that? That's us. Live. Requiring in-person attendance by members of a public body. This meeting will be held using a virtual platform of YouTube, and it can be accessed through the MTD's website, mtd.org. Video and audio will also be posted at www.mtd.org after the meeting. At this time, all Zoom followers are automatically muted. So if you need to speak, you'll need to unmute yourselves, and that goes for the board also. Since the board meeting will not be open to public due to Governor Pritzker's social distancing requirements, comments may be emailed to public@mtd.org. That is public@mtd.org. They will be read aloud in the audience participation portion of the meeting. In the order they were received, email submissions will be accepted until the time reserved for audience participation is over. Each comment will be limited to 5 minutes. And if you're going to send that in, you're going to want to do it right away. This time, we'll call our meeting to order and ask for a roll call by the secretary.
Barnes.
Here.
Bauer.
Here.
Chaplin. Here. Delgado.
Here.
Fasella.
Here.
Hannon.
Here.
Dial.
Here.
Quorum is present.
Thank you. Audience participation. Have we received any email comments?
No comments have been received.
Thank you. Oh, you're correct. I'm sorry. I got out of order there. We need to approve our agenda for today's meeting. We'll ask for a motion and a second after you've reviewed our agenda.
I move the agenda be approved as distributed.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve our agenda for today's meeting. Roll call, please.
Barnes.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Chaplin. Yes. Delgado.
Yes.
Fasella.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Dial.
Yes, that motion carries. That allowed an extra minute for someone to jump in on the audience participation portion of our meeting.
No other comments.
No other comments have been received. So we have no comments for that. Our next item is the approval of our minutes from our open session of August 26, 2020. After your review, I'll ask for a motion second.
I move that the minutes be approved as distributed.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from our open session, August 26, 2020. Roll call, please.
Barnes.
Yes.
Bauer.
Yes.
Chaplin. Yes. Delgado.
Yes.
Fasella.
Yes.
Hannon.
Yes.
Dial.
Yes, that motion carries. Communications, Carl.
We have received none.
Any communications that the board would like to share? Seeing none, we'll move into our managing director's report. I'm going to stop for 1 second. We do want to welcome to our board of trustees, the advisory board from the university. Our new student representative is Emily Hutchison. Is Emily online today?
I'm here. Hello.
Hi, Emily. Would you like to introduce yourself and tell us about what you're studying?
Sure. I am a second-year master's student in the Department of Urban and Regional Planning at U of I. I was also born and raised in Urbana, so I have a local connection. And I've been serving on the MTD Service Advisory Committee for the past year. So that was kind of my segue into this.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your participation. We certainly appreciate it. And anytime you'd like to interject something, just let us know.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Our next item will be the managing director's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. All right, this is for August of 2020, and we are comparing to August of 2019. And when we do that, we see that FY 21 has a drop in ridership of 62.4% when compared to last year. Um, while not good, it's not as bad as we were expecting. We started out the semester at about a 70% drop, and so we've been able to claw back a little bit of that and get ourselves only down to 62.4%. So maybe that shows some gradual improvement that we'll see as the year progresses. Moving on to revenue, the August 2020 operating revenue was 8.7% below August of 2019, and the year-to-date operating revenue was 11.5% below FY 2020. And of course, that is primarily because we are not collecting fares. And we continue to do that and board through the rear door. Excuse me. So that we can increase the physical distance between operators and passengers, just to provide a safer environment for both of those groups. However, that does impact our revenue. And the August operating expenses were 4% below August of 2019. Year-to-date operating expenses were 1.8% below FY 2020. Staff is making a very concerted effort to really stay on top of the expenses. We know that this year's finances are going to be sideways and topsy-turvy and difficult throughout. So everybody is really watching very closely, and that's why you see some reduction there. And we'll continue to do that for as long as we can. I want to reiterate, we've had some public announcements about this, but we have launched into the public comment period for our National Environmental and Protection Act review of the yards project. That's for the Illinois terminal expansion and associated development. And so our consultant HDR, working with our staff, primarily Jane Sullivan, they have put together a website, and that is itetheyards.com, and people can view a video at that location and then submit public comment on the project. And that's just part of the NEPA analysis that we do. Normally we would hold open houses, but obviously we can't do that, so we're doing it virtually this time around. And I have another item on my report here. I just want to get this out in front of the board. I don't know that we're actually going to be doing this, but the university did contact us to see if we would be a viable option for them to transport students who have tested positive for COVID-19. In one group that needs transportation, then another group is people who have had close contact with people who have tested positive, and those groups have to go into quarantine and or isolation. And so they were seeing if we would or could do that for them, and we agreed that we could, though we have to do some minor modifications to the vehicles to protect the drivers. And so we have given them back a proposal for that, and they have. I think they've decided that the need isn't great enough yet. The numbers aren't great enough yet for them to need us to do that. But I think they were appreciative of knowing that we would be able to do that should the need finally arise. And yes.
Is that for like hospital visits, or what kind of transportation?
No,
were
they
you
moved
talking
the
about?
students there's a quarantine location, there's a dorm that's a quarantine location, and then there are hotels that they've contracted with for isolation. And so if they have, I'm making up the numbers here, but if they had just hypothetically 70 students in a day that needed to go into quarantine, then that's a lot of students to transport, and they don't particularly, we don't want them on our regular routes. Cab drivers may not want them in their car, that kind of thing. And so we can put them in kind of for lack of a better
group them
description, a
together.
protective bubble
Sure.
inside the bus.
Bus bubble.
And use a bus bubble, yeah, and use the larger bus so that there's room between them. Of course, all the positives on a bus, they can sit right next to each other and it doesn't matter because they're all positive, but we want to get them to their location safely and begin their quarantine and isolation during transportation. So that would be the idea of that. But as I said, they haven't pulled the trigger on it yet. And with that, I'll answer any questions through page 37 of the board packet.
Questions for Carl from Margaret?
Just to follow up on this quarantine business, so you transport the students plus their belongings, I assume, because they have to live there for 2 weeks?
Yeah, presumably they would bring a suitcase and a backpack with them. They're going to be in quarantine or isolation for 2 weeks, so they have to have some belongings with them. And like I said, that's why we would use the larger buses that even has standing room that could be used for luggage while they're being transported.
Well, will this be a dedicated bus or?
Absolutely, yes. They would be dedicated buses that would be, we already have our entire fleet on a heightened disinfectant schedule. And these would be heightened again to a higher level so that even in between trips, we would disinfect and sanitize the vehicles. So they would be held apart from the rest of the fleet. The drivers would be fitted with N95 masks. We're going to have these bubble barriers in between the passengers and the driver, and then we would disinfect the buses in between each trip.
Additional questions for Carl, Phil?
A question, Carl. Metro. When is it going to finish?
Bruce, we're not able to hear you.
Yeah, we're going to turn the speaker up a little bit, Bruce, and then could you repeat that, please?
My speaker is on.
No, it was on our end. We just turned the volume up on our speaker.
Okay, good. Metro, or they, not Metro, but they work on the highway and Wright Street, Green Street,
MCOR?
MCOR, yes.
Yes.
How far till it's finished? How soon?
Well, the project 4 is scheduled to be completed in November. So that's Wright Street and Armory. And I think they've already actually completed what's south of Green Street on Wright Street and Armory. And so all they have left is the portion of Wright Street that's north of Green Street. And they're making good progress on that. And that's scheduled for I think mid-November for completion. Project 5, which is Green Street in Urbana, east of Lincoln, essentially to downtown, that is underway. I don't know that I could tell you exactly where they are right now, but I know they did recently move to a new block, so they're progressing on that, and I think that's scheduled for the spring to be completed. Is that right, or am I being too aggressive?
Thank you.
For Green Street. Oh, okay. So I don't know if you could hear her, Bruce, but Jane corrected me that we're expecting them to be done by the end of this calendar year. So that's great.
Phil?
A couple of things. First of all, I saw the mobile market today, and between that and U of I thing, you guys have been very can-do. You're doing some cool stuff.
Thank you.
I was curious with the note about Greyhound in here. Were we planning on we were going to be building out some things for them in the yards project for the long distance buses, correct?
Yes, and that wouldn't change at this point because the only new portion of the yards project that would be associated with Greyhound was a loading platform. And Greyhound, maybe I might not have made this as clear as I could have, but Greyhound will still be using Illinois Terminal as its bus stop. They just have converted our location, Champaign, into an e-stop instead of a physical stop. So that means they don't have a customer service counter. They're not selling tickets. So if you want to buy a ticket, you have to do it online or on their app, that kind of thing. But they're still serving they're still serving Illinois Terminal, and we still have an agreement for them to continue to serve this location. And so the new platform would be just the location that they would serve then.
Very good. The only other thing I had for you, I guess it's still September, but we had quite a scramble on Labor Day, just trying to get employees to and from campus to sanitize housing and stuff. It's always a struggle for us on holidays if we have employees that are MTD dependent, getting them transportation, and something I think we need to always keep in mind. Low income workers, people that need the MTD, they don't get holidays off. So it makes a scramble for employers, and I'm sure it's stressful for our employees as well, trying to get to and from work.
Yeah, I can appreciate that. Yeah, you're specifically referring to Labor Day? Yeah. Right. So holidays are a challenge because the world doesn't necessarily stop, and there are people that need to work or go to a grocery store or whatever. And so, yeah, that's an issue. At the same time, the other side of that coin is our employees deserve time off too. And so trying to find a balance there. We don't take all the holidays like, Martin Luther King and some other holidays. We don't take them all off. Memorial Day. I think we have 7 that we take off, and one of those is Easter Sunday. So that's a pretty low ridership day. Absolutely recognize and acknowledge that does impact people, and hopefully they plan accordingly. We have had conversations before about Christmas or New Year's and the need to have service then. And it's a cost benefit analysis that we do, and our employees deserve time off too. And so, those are many masters that we're trying to serve with that. But I absolutely acknowledge what you're trying to say or that you are saying, and that there are people who need that mobility option.
Any other questions for Carl from the board? Anybody out in wireless land? Seeing none, we'll move on to our next item, which will be our first action item, and that is the Champaign County Area Rural Transit System vehicle lease.
Okay, I believe we have Evan Alvarez, our Special Services Manager, on Zoom, who wrote the memo for this. Is that correct, Evan? Are you with us?
Oh, there we go. No, that's true. I am here.
Welcome.
Welcome. Great to see you.
Great to see you. And sorry, one second. Sorry. Okay. So, yes, we have the vehicle lease agreement. Basically, y'all remember at the last meeting, we updated the IGA between MTD and Champaign County to continue service delivery for C-carts and maintaining that agreement. The vehicle lease agreement is a part of that. We lease vehicles from the county every year, or for the term of the lease agreement, rather, to continue providing the service. So we've updated that agreement to remove vehicles that are no longer in service and to add 3 new vehicles that we got in June through the CVP program.
I have a question.
Okay.
We cover the whole county.
Yes, all of Champaign County.
So that means even the smallest of towns, the farthest away.
Yep. Pasodum, Sedoris, the parts of Ivesdale that are in Champaign County, all of them.
Gotcha. And that service is what, once a week?
But we run Monday through Friday. The first operators show up at about 4:30 in the morning and then leave at about, I think the last operator is normally gone about 6:45 in the evening. So we run all through the day.
So
Bruce.
so Evan or Bruce, so that's a demand service though, correct? So if someone requests service, So whether we're not running a route to Ivesdale. If someone in Ivesdale needs a drive or needs a ride into Champaign, they call and request service, correct?
That is correct. We do a route in Rantoul. So that's about 3 hours in the morning and about 3 hours in the evening. We do bus routes the same way that we do here in Champaign-Urbana. But all of the other trips are on demand, so people would call and book those in advance.
Thank you. Any other questions from the board on this particular item?
Just from Linda Bauer, a question, not going to affect my vote on this because I think it's a good idea, but how has C-Cart's usage been in the last 6 months?
It's actually increased quite a bit, which is shocking, but because a lot of our passengers, we've always had a lot of seniors who would go to Circle of Friends and kind of similar facilities, and of course those are closed. But a lot of the major employers in Rantoul are deemed essential services, so they've been hiring like crazy. So our ridership on those routes has actually kind of boomed over the last 6 months.
That's great. More awareness too.
Absolutely. And like MTD, we've gone fare free. So my hope is that kind of while we've suspended fare enforcement, that maybe a lot of people are going to start viewing transit as a more viable option to get to work in Rantoul. So that when, we do start implementing fares, I'm sure we'll lose some people, but I'm hoping that, a lot of people will see that this is an option that's working really well for them.
Thank you.
Thanks, Linda. Additional questions from the board on this item?
Hi, Evan. Just one more question. How far out in advance would someone have to call to arrange a C-Carts ride?
For the routes, they can just show up. To call and schedule a trip, it's 2 business days. Or yeah, like right now is Wednesday, so I could book a trip for Friday.
Great, thank you.
Additional questions on this item? Seeing and hearing none, I'll ask for a motion and a second.
So motioned.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve our long-term intergovernmental agreement between Champaign County and the Champaign-Urbana Mass Transit District for the period of July 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Chaplin. Yes. Delgado,
Yes.
Vasella,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes,
Dial.
Yes, that motion carries. Our next action item is the Picture Perfect Technology contract for the board meeting area audio visual upgrade. Jane.
Thank you. So this item is about the space we're in right now. Many of us remember that our board meetings used to always be here on the 4th floor of Illinois Terminal. We moved to the City Council chambers over there. Yes, just a little bit that way. We moved to the council chambers in 2017 so that people could watch the meetings live. And we could utilize their video production system. We moved back here, as everyone knows, earlier this year because city council chambers are closed. And to do that, our tech services staff used existing equipment to set up this, what really is a temporary solution of audio and visual equipment so that we can have this mix of in-person and virtual participation. And we see the need to really make this a long-term solution, a long-term location for board meetings, continuing to allow people to participate virtually and in person. And we really need to upgrade the system in order to do that. So the request here, the request here is a $64,530 contract with Picture Perfect. We submitted a request to the state just a couple days ago to get 65% of that funded with our state operating grant. And we've gotten positive feedback on that submission. So there should be no reason it's not approved. So the local contribution would be 35% of that contract at $22,586. I'll stop there. I'm happy to take questions.
So I'll just add that we talked about this yesterday at our meeting, and Carl sent out subsequent to the meeting that Margaret and I had. He sent out some additional information that hopefully everybody had a chance to look at, that explained sort of what the plan is here, I guess. So questions from the board on this item? Margaret.
In my understanding is, goodness, I didn't mean to shut off the lights. This will not enable people to watch us live on cable or something like that. They'll have to go to YouTube or whatever to pick up.
Well, that's
That's
still
correct.
live, isn't it? I mean, you can be on YouTube live, can't you?
That's correct.
So yes, it'll be streamed live on YouTube, and it will still be available on our website for eternity.
So I want to stream live on YouTube means they'll be watching it when it happens in
Correct.
real time.
Correct.
Okay.
And they'll be able to access it on YouTube for years afterward, should they desire to do so.
And it'll probably be on the government channel on cable too. Is that accurate?
You know, we haven't talked to the city about that. I don't see why it would not be able to
Okay.
be on that. So we just probably need to connect those dots
Sure.
and make that arrangement.
Dick, did you have a question?
Yes, could or would this system be used for public comment, special gatherings?
You mean as a meeting space?
Yeah, I mean, would we put these things live online? In other words, when there's a new service and we're asking for public comment?
Yes, we would be able to do that. Yeah, you know, for an open house or a public hearing kind of thing. I think everybody hopes that we get back to actually being able to do that in person at some point. But even when we do, we could have a streamed element using this equipment simultaneously. So
Additional
I apologize for
questions?
the light show. I'm
Phil.
not sure what's going on.
I remember we had a discussion about this. It was a couple weeks ago, and you talked about this was going to be coming out of our capital improvement fund, local funds for 100%. Would we still go through with this, or as of today, are we approving if we get the 65% state match going through with this?
Well, you as a board can do whatever you want. You could just straight up approve it, or you could approve it pending IDOT approval for their share. You can, you know, I mean, staff is recommending that we do this because we think that there are benefits and advantages to the district by spending the money. Whether it's 100%, we have the funds available in our capital reserve, and we have gotten positive indications from the state that this will be able to be included in their program. So I think, as Jane indicated, I think we have every expectation that it will be included in that, and that will be our primary method of funding this. But if you want to approve a motion that includes the alternative, staff would appreciate that.
Our resolution is written, has the expectation that we're going to receive state funds for this, though, correct?
Well, there isn't actually a written resolution. It's on how you word the motion, and then that's
Sure.
what Beth would
Perfect.
put in the minutes.
Understood. Additional questions from the board? Margaret?
This is just really a comment, not a question, because I think this kind of thing is important. I think that it's important that we control the location and the procedures of our meetings and not be at the mercy of other people's schedules and preferences. So I would certainly vote to go forward with this, even if we didn't get the money from the state, which I assume we will.
Yeah, and just to tag on that real quick, if I can, Brad, I appreciate what you're saying, Margaret, and I agree with that. I would like to note, though, that the city of Champaign has been a great partner, and they're good to work with. But as you noted, they have their own schedule, and they have other bodies that meet in that facility, and so there are scheduling conflicts, and they have the deadlines and timelines that have to be met, and that just complicates things for us. That's not a dig on them. They've been great, but this just will be more. It will give us more flexibility in our own schedule.
And as we move into the future with the upgraded facilities here, we'll likely have our own meeting space, and then we'll have the equipment in place.
That's absolutely right. We
move
can
into that.
repurpose this brand new equipment in the yards when it's done.
Linda, did you have a question or comment?
I think the cameras are kind of pricey, but mailman is here. Sorry. Anyway, I think we're going to see a trend for remote meetings too, as well as everybody being there. So, we'll be broadcasting, and I like the idea of having our own production area.
Thank you, Linda. And it has been our long-term goal to have our meetings basically live and televised and available to the public, especially the folks that aren't able to be here or can't be here. So, additional questions, Phil?
I guess I'm reticent to approve this on a couple levels. I worry, even with the state matching funds, obviously, I think that's sales tax driven. We don't know what the state's finances are going to look like in a year, if we're actually going to be getting paid. I think, obviously to the public, us spending money right now, $65,000 is a lot. And I know people are really struggling. Businesses are struggling. People are struggling to pay rent or pay taxes. And then again, with the yards coming up, how much does it cost to move all this equipment in a year and a half or whatever when we do have a new space and set it up over there? Would we be better off? We're getting by, I think, for now, maybe tabling this for a year and seeing how the yards thing is going, and maybe looking at, just outfitting whatever we do over there. That's kind of the direction I would lean in, is we need to be conservative right now, tighten our belts, and kind of, if only, yes, we are flush with cash, but God forbid things really take a hit here, we might need to kind of take a hit for the team and cut back our taxing to help other districts, things like that, if things get really bad in Champaign County in a year. So I don't know if I feel comfortable spending this now or not.
Additional questions or comments on this item? Seeing none, I'll ask for a motion to approve the contract for the board meeting audio-visual upgrade. And we're going to initially, we're going to say that this is going to be funded with state funds, 65% from the Downstate Operating Assistance Program and 35% local funds. That would be my initial wish for a motion.
So move.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Chaplin.
Yes.
Delgado,
Yes.
Vasella,
I think I've still got to be no.
Hannon,
Yes.
Dial.
Yes, that motion carries. That was great commentary on that from the entire board. I appreciate everyone's input. That was our last action item for today's meeting. Our next regular board meeting will be Wednesday, October 28th, 2020 at 3:00, and we'll be right here again. At this time, we will be adjourning to closed session to consider litigation which is probable or imminent against the MTD. We'll be following that with adjournment. We'll have no further business today. All of our trustees and our legal counsel should stay on the Zoom call. All other individuals will be disconnected for the closed session, and we will also be clearing our meeting area of anyone that doesn't need to be here. I'll ask for a motion on that action.
So motioned.
It's been moved and seconded to move to closed session. Roll call, please.
Barnes,
Yes.
Bauer,
Yes.
Chaplin. Yes. Delgado,
Yes.
Musella,
Yes.
Hannon,
Yes.
Dial.
Yes, we'll be taking a 5-minute break to clear the room and prepare ourselves for our next session. Thank you.